Deshaun Watson, when he came off that 11-game suspension last year, he was looking really, really rusty. And most of us who had realistic expectations for him understood that he probably wasn't going to be all that great coming out the gate. However, I wasn't expecting Deshaun Watson to be as bad as what he was last year. He had 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and he completed 58% of his passes. And he wasn't really making a lot of good decisions with the football. He was kind of forcing the issue at times. His accuracy was up and down. It just wasn't really a good start to Deshaun Watson's career in Cleveland. And going into 2023, I said it a couple of days ago, I believe that the Cleveland Browns are the NFL's biggest mystery going into this season because they have the potential, the ceiling, to be legitimate Super Bowl contenders. But their floor also could be 6 to 7 wins. It largely depends on what version of Deshaun Watson are they going to get this year. Are you going to get the Deshaun Watson that you envisioned when you first traded for him and gave him that $250 million guaranteed contract? Or are you going to get the version of Deshaun Watson that we saw last year coming off that suspension? Now, I still believe that Deshaun Watson is amongst the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I probably would still rank him as a top 10 quarterback. And if the Cleveland Browns are going to have a shot at being able to make it to the postseason in this division, they need Deshaun Watson to return to the quarterback that he was in Houston. The AFC North is arguably the best division, the toughest division in the NFL this season. You got the Ravens and Bengals, who pretty much are premier Super Bowl contenders. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be a better team than what they were last year. And for Kevin Stefanski, he has a lot of pressure going into this season, man, because there's no more excuses for him. You got your guy at quarterback. You got a really good team. The Browns should be able to at least be able to make it to the postseason this year. And if the Cleveland Browns struggle this year, I think it largely could be due in part to Deshaun Watson not having a good season. Deshaun Watson has a really good team around him. He has a top 10 offensive line. He has a really good group of wide receivers. You traded for Elijah Moore. You have rookie Cedric Tillman, who was one of my favorite receivers coming out of this past year's draft. You got Amari Cooper. And you have Donovan Peoples-Jones, along with tight end David Njoku, and one of the best rushing attacks in the NFL with Nick Chubb and Jerome Ford, who I think is going to have a breakout season. For Deshaun Watson, there's no reason why he shouldn't have a better 2023 campaign as opposed to how he performed last season. Now, last season, we knew that he had a lot of off-the-field things that he was dealing with that kind of distracted him from being able to fully focus on the year. He also was coming on a new team, trying to learn a new playbook, a new system, trying to get acclimated and getting chemistry and timing down with new teammates. So going into this year, with the offseason that has no distractions, where he should be able to fully put all his focus on the field, and he's going to be able to go into training camp, not having to worry about a possible suspension. He's going to have better knowledge and grasp on the playbook. He's going to have better timing with his teammates. Deshaun Watson should have a really fantastic season for the Cleveland Browns this year. He probably should be the front runner for Comeback Player of the Year. And as I mentioned earlier, if the Browns are going to have a chance at being able to make it to the playoffs this year, it's going to be largely due, in part, to the play of Deshaun Watson. And if Kevin Stefanski isn't able to get the Browns to the postseason this year, he most likely is going to be out of a job come 2024. Kevin Stefanski has a lot of things riding on Deshaun Watson. And for Deshaun Watson, there's a lot of pressure on him to produce this year, signing the largest fully guaranteed contract in the history of the NFL. Deshaun Watson, when you think about some of the characteristics about him that made him one of the best QBs in the game, when he was playing for the Houston Texans, it was his ability to extend plays by a time when things are breaking down, how good he is as a runner. He's also really accurate on the run and when he's moving outside of the pocket. Cleveland needs that version of Deshaun Watson to return in 2023. The AFC North is really tough. The Steelers have an elite defense. The Ravens have an elite defense. The Bengals are going to have a really good defense. You got a lot of good defensive coordinators in this conference, in this division. For the Cleveland Browns to be able to have a successful season, we know that it's going to come down to the performance of Deshaun Watson. And I'm still a believer in Deshaun Watson. I was a little bit surprised that he performed as bad as what he did last year. I thought that he was going to come out and be a little bit rusty, but I thought he was going to get better every single week, and we never really saw that. So this year, he has no more excuses. He has no distractions. He's going to have better timing and chemistry with his teammates. He has an even better team this year than what he had to work with last year. There are some Browns fans that would tell you that some of the reasons why Deshaun Watson struggled was because the offense that Kevin Stefanski had built wasn't really tooled towards Deshaun Watson's skill set. It was built around Jacoby Brissett. And when Deshaun Watson came in, the offensive line had to readjust to him being underneath center. The wide receivers had to adjust to Deshaun Watson. So for Deshaun Watson going into 2023, I expect him to be playing at a really high level. And when you're in the division that has two of the best quarterbacks in the game in Lamar and Joe Burrow, you're going to need Deshaun Watson to be able to step up big in this division. And the first two games of the season that the Browns kick off with are the Cincinnati Bengals at home. Then they got to travel on the road to play the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we're going to find out fairly quickly just how good Deshaun Watson is going to be this year. As I said, the Cleveland Browns have the potential to be able to compete in the AFC and possibly make it to the Super Bowl. But they also could be a bad enough team where they underachieve and they only win 6 to 7 games. It's largely going to depend on the play of Deshaun Watson. You're giving this guy $250 million guaranteed. This dude better come out and produce, and he better produce at an elite level. I can understand him coming out a little rusty last year, even though I don't expect you to struggle against, the Saints. I don't really expect you to struggle against the Washington Commanders. I don't expect you to struggle against the Houston Texans, but okay, whatever. I'm just going to act like last season didn't happen. He's going into this year with a clean slate. No more excuses. He needs to play better, and I feel he will play better. And if he does, expect Cleveland to be in the playoff conversation.